Thanks, everybody, for being here this afternoon. We're really excited to chat with you. My name is Mark Jajic. I'm here with my colleague, Bryn Orem, who will introduce herself in just a minute. We're with the Greater Madison Writing Project in the Professional Learning and Community Education Office for the School of Education. And we're really excited to talk about youth and adult partnerships with you today and to get into some discussion. So we're going to chat real briefly to kick things off about the program where this work comes from. We have a couple of readings from one of our teachers who has been focused in on youth and adult partnerships during this year, which we all know is an incredibly trying year. So we have a couple pieces from her to just sort of ground us in conversation about what could it mean to really foster youth and adult partnerships in the classroom. And then we'll give a few minutes for people to scan those if you haven't read them before, and for those of you who were lucky enough to already read them, to kind of come back to them, to note some highlights for you, and then use a few discussion prompts to get into it. So thanks for being here, and we're really excited to chat with you.
All right. So before we get into our discussion, we just wanted to give you a little bit of background about where this work comes from. Some of you have heard from us before. Mark and I work at the School of Education in PLACE, Professional Learning and Community Education, for the Greater Madison Writing Project. And this year we ran an online year-long institute with around 20 teachers from around Wisconsin and beyond. And their work with us consisted of a week in the summer, this past summer, and then monthly meetings throughout the school year. So as this group came together, really born out of the spring shutdown, and really wanting to learn from all of these events that had happened, the experiences that they had had, as well as their students. And we're really dedicated to this idea that we needed to come back to something better than what we left before. And so we dedicated our learning to youth and adult partnership research and writing, as well as culturally sustaining pedagogies work. And that process yielded some design principles because we had teachers from elementary through post-secondary education in all sorts of content areas. We needed some grounding that everyone could get behind in their work and could be useful to them. So the design principles for culturally sustaining learning partnerships were born, and maybe Mark can put that link in the chat for us. So these principles have really guided the work for this group of teachers across this year as they have designed, redesigned, redesigned again, depending upon the schedule of their year and how the landscape of their teaching context has changed. Participants have blogged regularly about their experiences utilizing the culturally sustaining learning partnerships design principles on our Medium blog. And that is where we find our two texts for today. But if you're interested in reading more, there's lots of incredible work. Maybe Mark can drop that in the chat too, from our collection of participants about their experiences trying to do this incredibly important work under extraordinarily difficult pandemic teaching circumstances. They are really inspiring and insightful. They've talked about the ups and downs as well as a lot of the successes. Our culminating work with this group is going to be a resource specifically from the culturally sustaining learning partnerships about content for teachers to use. So if you watch the blog, there'll be more information as we wrap up the year together there. Thanks, Mark.
So I have the blog. I'll drop that in just a minute. But as we do that, we really wanted to give people an opportunity to sort of dig into this work in a couple specifics. So we have two pieces here from one of our teachers, Lisa Carruthers. who unfortunately had made plans to join us, but some unforeseen circumstances have come up, which means she can't be here this afternoon. But these two pieces speak to they're her writings about culture sustaining learning partnerships in practice, how these design principles influence her work, and how she's thinking about them, her students, their work together during this year. So imagine some of you had a chance to look at these in advance, and some of you probably have not. So we wanted to just dedicate about 3 or 4 minutes to let anybody who hasn't read these kind of get in and give them a scan. And if you have, to kind of go back and reread and really think about identifying like maybe a sentence or paragraph that is particularly meaningful for you that you would like to bring to small group discussion. Just things in general that really resonate with you as you think about changes or adaptations that you would like to make in your work in terms of partnership with youth. And then as we move into that discussion, also thinking about what are the structural changes that you think need to happen to make sort of the practices that Lisa's writing about or in your own places of work possible? And what sort of role might you have with that? So I'm going to set a timer for 3 minutes to let us read. These are linked here, the Witness the Wonders and Scene. And you can click on them in the slideshow. And then also maybe, Bryn, we can just drop these directly into the chat so that they're accessible for people more easily. Okay. Please enjoy a few minutes and then we'll drop this back to the slideshow so that you can see the discussion prompts. All right, friends, that is a timer letting us know. If you want to find a spot where you can pause your reading and join us back here. Um, Annalie is going to send us out to some breakout rooms to have small group discussions. I think we can just then maybe copy and paste these discussion questions into our chat once we get there so that they're accessible for everybody. And we'll be there for a little bit more than 10 minutes.